Welcome in, everybody. We are BTB Analytics, and we are breaking down the Big Ten Conference ahead of the season. We're talking value, we're talking edge cases. We got output for all the teams. We want to give you guys some actionable data, some good takeaways that you can use for your betting angles, for your handicapping, whatever it is. We got a lot of teams to break down. Let's not waste any time. Starting at the top of this conference, guys, the returning national champions, Ohio State. Okay, we have them at we make the number 11 and a half wins for them. Median wins across all the data that we bring in is 10.2 wins. So they, by all intents and purposes, are the top dogs returning, literally,
Yeah.
metaphorically, and everything in between. But does that mean there's still value on them? They're the odds-on favorites to win. I think, one of the shortest odds as well to repeat as national champions as well. So that being said, how does this team miss the playoffs, Seth, if that's even feasible?
It's really difficult to come up with a number, which is scary, to be honest, because when you run these numbers, you start questioning yourself. But I have ran these numbers in out every which way, and what ends up happening is right now college football from a power rating standpoint is so top heavy. You are forced to put Texas and Ohio State just so much better than the next best team, and we're talking in our power rating that is blending four different independent models that are hardcore data driven, win you money by paying attention to them. I have Ohio State 3.5 points better than the third best team, and they're still Ohio State is 2 points better than Texas, which is the second best team. And the problem is this just means that they win so many games, and we know based off last year, winning games is your pathway to the playoff. This team won the national championship. They didn't win the Big Ten. So I think the reality is, dare I say, yes, there is value, even at the astronomical numbers that we see. I think the market's pricing in like an 80% chance. We still show value. Am I going to lay those numbers? At this time, I think there are better bets to make for the full season, but I think the answer is yes. If you're an Ohio State fan, I think it's OH all day.
Yeah, we're showing slight, like not even 1% edge to the over on here because again, it's all kind of based on price as well. But Steve, I wanna bring you in on this one. Like, okay, massive program in terms of recruiting and talent standpoint. But what is it that the Buckeyes, if anything, need to be concerned about trying to repeat?
Yeah, I agree with everything Seth said. I mean, this is really a hard team to fade here, and it's kind of rare that you get teams that are this favored and you're still showing edge because normally the name brand schools you're going to get taxed on if you want to follow them and buy the hype. If I can play devil's advocate, the only thing that I think could hurt Ohio State's chances is the lack of continuity. Now, first and foremost, we know Ohio State recruits and they recruit damn well. We see this year in and year out. Every time they start a new quarterback, they've lost 14 players to the NFL draft this last year. And not just that, that's normal, right, for an Ohio State team. They lost Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator. He's gone to the Raiders. And then on your defensive side of the ball, they lost their defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles, who's gone on to the rival Penn State. More about that later. And then they've been replaced by Brian Hartline and Matt Patricia. So, definitely guys who have experience. But again, that lack of continuity. Going back to the quarterback, you do have a new quarterback here. Will Howard's gone. So all signs point to Julian Sand coming in and sophomore coming in and him having the reins there. He's been in the system, so he kind of knows what's going on. But again, new coordinator, does that change the playbook? And then the last thing I can say, and this is just purely just as a fan here, the what if factor, right? The thing we can never actually quantify or anything like that, the Michigan bugaboo. So you've got for Ohio State to clear this win total, right? They have Texas week 1, which scares me. They've got Penn State, which Penn State is at home, which is good. Then they're at Michigan, where Ryan Day, as we all know, has 1-4 and lost 4 straights for this team. So can they win 2 out of 3 of those games? And for me, the one that worries me the most is Texas, because again, you have all these new things, and right off the bat, you're facing the second most talented team, the Seth's point, in the country, and then Michigan, the end of the year, which again, it's the team they should beat. But we've seen just Michigan have their number. Now, Harbaugh's gone, but Jerome Moore won last year. So is there just something there? So, again, all that to said, Ohio State definitely is a team to lay on here, but that's me playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I think Ryan Day came out and said that the quarterback competition was going to come down to the wire in terms of who they ultimately named the starter, which could be coach speak. It could be all settled behind closed doors, but nonetheless, it does not instill confidence from a continuity standpoint, and more directly, like we've been talking about, from a price standpoint. Like there's just nothing that pops off the screen, right? That says you got to take it, So, but
Definitely not from a team total. And then when there's big edges on the make playoffs, but how many if Ohio State wins 9 games, they make the playoff, yeah?
No.
9?
No. Personally, I don't
So they have
see
to win
anywhere
10.
at bare minimum. Yeah. Because you got we'll talk about Penn State next, right? And I think Oregon's probably gonna have a regression here, but I think you've gotta have 10 games, I think. It depends on how Oregon does.
True.
I guess that's the answer.
And Indiana, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Minus 300 is the best price in the market for it to make the playoffs, right? And that's, as far as futures go, that's a lot of juice to
that's a lot of juice to squeeze.
To keep tied up for a whole season. But
yeah,
to your point, says.
Sorry, guys, real quick to answer your question too about the 9. If they only win 9 games and they have 3 losses, to me that only happens if you lose to both Oregon and Penn State. So that means you're the 3rd best team in the conference.
And Texas.
Yeah, well, no, but I mean like just in the Big Ten, right? So knowing that you're probably not going to get a bunch of Big Ten seeds, being the 3rd best, I don't know how you justify that from a committee standpoint, but we've seen crazier things.
Okay. Yeah. So Ohio State is our number 1 team in the conference. Our number 2 team is Penn State. So yeah, what's gonna be different here? Penn State just gonna Penn State until proven otherwise. Similar to we talked about in our ACC breakdown video about Grom and the fact that they just win 8 games, right? What Penn State does, they win the games they're supposed to, and they lose the big ones. That's their MO, right? And what is going to be different this year? And that's obviously just really hardcore narrative driven type stuff. But like what on the data side of things, Seth, would have you change your mind about Penn State coming in this season?
I don't change my mind is not the right word I would use, but what can make that competitive is that, the stars align and the things that in the past that have pointed to success are looking to kind of come in alignment. You have an older Drew Aller, and I don't mean that derogatory. I mean that he's, now, and I think his 3rd year starting. And so you have that. And then you have the continuity at offensive coordinator. Now they don't have the double continuity, but they're bringing in, I think, in my opinion, an upgraded defensive coordinator. This team has kind of always been stout defensively. So the question is, can they get over the hump? And it's one of those things we see it all the time. Is like the narrative is they can't until all of a sudden they do. I mean, Michigan was historically beat up by Ohio State, and now they've gone on this run. And now all of a sudden, we forget that so much. So I don't know. I don't know that I'm buying them. Their numbers don't jump off the page to be wanting to run and bet, maybe to make playoffs, because again, it's really hard for me to see a world in which they don't make the playoff.
Yeah. Another long odds about minus 300 is
exactly. I mean, I'm not saying anything the market doesn't already know. And then then for championship odds, I think you're getting ripped off. Like it's just not long enough. So am I a buyer of Penn State? No, but I'm not a seller of Penn State either. I'm not fading them in any way, and I won't be surprised if they have success.
Yeah, no, that's well. So, and I think for me, like this sucks because again, we talk about it time and time again. The price is such a big deal when you're trying to find value in these edges, right? To bet and be profitable. And this sucks because like I think this is Penn State's year. I just can't justify with the numbers here. And so, you mentioned, Kevin, that they don't win the big games. When you really drill that down, the big games, it's Michigan and Ohio State. That's been Penn State's problem. They have a Michigan and Ohio State problem. And back when they were divisions, you couldn't lose to both of them because by default, the other one would get into the Big Ten title game, right? And so now that you don't have that anymore, you look what happened last year, right? So you had just Ohio State to worry about and Oregon. Now, obviously, they lost to Oregon and Ohio State, so they still have those 2 losses. But look at the schedule this year. Same thing. They've got Oregon and Ohio State. I don't want to disrespect Indiana, but let's just focus on the big dogs, right? Oregon, right? You are now at Oregon this year, or excuse me, you're at home against Oregon this year. You're in the row last year. You're at home against Oregon with no Dylan Gabriel, right? He's gone now off to NFL. No Tez Johnson, their best receiver. He's gone to the Bucks. And their next best receiver in Evan Stewart could be out for the whole season. And not to mention, you have a brand new quarterback coming in Dante Moore. So this is one of the ones where, given what we talked about with Ohio State's continuity question and what that looks like, and Oregon being the top dog that may not be the same team this year, I can legitimately see this Penn State team going 11-1, maybe even 12-0 if hell gets a little freezing over here. This is the time. And James Franklin just seems to rise inch by inch every year. So that's a lot of emotion. But, that to me is where I'm like, damn, I wish Ohio State eat up more of the futures market to give value on Penn State, because I would have been all over this.
Yeah,
and
that's a good way to
whiteout
put it.
game.
And whiteout game for Oregon. You're right.
At Penn State's whiteout game too. So
Yeah, that's good. I
Mo
mean,
Bamba will be there live. That's what I
shut
heard.
up. Yeah, we give them 11 wins, but median we put them at 10.2, and yeah, again we are just so fortuitously the only model that disagrees that would otherwise probably make this a little bit of value to the under, but I digress. Before we get on to the other teams in the Big Ten, guys, let's take a 15-second pause for a quick word. All right, keeping this ball rolling in the Big Ten. Let's go on down the conference. Our third-ranked team, we are talking about Oregon. We give them 9.6 wins. We give good for a median across all models of 9.8 wins. But yes, Seth, this is a team for me that I'm a little concerned. I don't know if this is the team in the Big Ten that has one of the biggest regressions from a win total standpoint. Big issues from my perspective with respect to returning production. Only one returning starter on offense, and it's likely going to be their center. And only 5 starters that are returning with at least 100 snaps under their belt. So that's a lot in this conference that is really top heavy with Ohio State and with Penn State.
No, you've highlighted it. I will say that their schedule is a little bit easier than the top dogs in the Big 12. I mean, all of the models that we look to, including ours, do point in the direction of the under. I think we make this number 10 exactly.
We make it 9.6.
9.6. Okay, sorry, 9.6. Slight edge to the under. 2% is what I'm showing. But the problem is, I want to point out a couple things, because I've been thinking a lot about this team. This has been a team that they've started over at quarterback the last couple of seasons in a row. So, that's not new to them. They started very slow last year. I mean, they almost lost to Boise State week 2. And if you look at the schedule, Montana State, Oklahoma State, bottom of the Big 12, Northwestern, bottom of the Big 10, Oregon State, RIP Pac-12, or I guess it's back. I don't know, but they're at the bottom. And then, so you have a whole month to quote unquote figure it out. So, yes, when they play Montana State, did they win by 50? I don't know, but you get a month to figure it out by the time you play Penn State. Yeah, you got to go across the country. Yeah, you got to go to the whiteout game. Mo Bamba will be there live, is what I heard. But I don't know. I'm with you. I fear, like, what is the true floor? Like, is the bottom really falling out, or are they going to win 9 games? Like,
yeah. I mean, to your point, you look at the schedule, and it's really tough outside of the Penn State. And if Indiana takes a step back again from this year, if they, if they're not able to sort of catch lightning in a bottle 2 years in a row, then that schedule becomes a lot more manageable, right? So, who knows? Yeah, I have questions around this team, though, generally speaking. But
yeah, I mean, Dan Lanning also, I think this is his 3rd or 4th year. So also you're getting the continuity of whatever the program building he wants to do. He's going to bring in the recruits. So, and they're a highly, recruited team. They're, blue chip ratio, blue blood, 50% of their roster, 4- and 5-star recruits. So we've seen it in the past that the rules apply to everybody else but the big dogs, meaning all the big dogs lose people to the league over year, and they got the next guy up, and then now you add the portal. My question is at quarterback. You got a 5-star. That sounds cool. This is But is Oregon putting on a showcase here, a trend that they go and grab quarterbacks and then make them really elite? But I'm worried because I believe they have a 5-star. Is it Dante Moore, who started at UCLA 2 seasons ago, and that did not go well. So the question I have, and that was under Chip Kelly, right? An offensive mind. So my question is, what went on there, and how certain are we that experiment? This doesn't feel like buying Bo Nix. This doesn't feel like buying Dylan Gabriel. This feels a little bit more unknown to me than that.
Yeah. My question is, what the duck? Like, I just don't think it's going to be a good look for them.
Maybe it's
but could be. All right. Before we move on, don't forget to like the video, guys. If you like the angles and the edges we're talking about, again, trying to give you the data breakdown, trying to show you where we have value and that you can take with you into the season. Don't forget to hit the notification button as well. We're going to have conference breakdown videos for all the Power Four. So when the next one goes live, you will be notified immediately. So let's move on down the line here. Illinois. Let's bring them up for a second.
The hype.
Okay. What? Okay, I've been living on a rock with this one. What is the hype around Illinois?
That they're gonna win the national championship. Over 7.5. They're gonna make the playoff. Look,
where the hell are you hanging out?
I guess in all the wrong places. So this is the thing I want to point out. This is the thing about I commend the people. They talk about like no, the returning production is really high with this team. It's the same argument for Clemson. The returning production is really high. This is what people leave out of the analysis that is so important. They are returning a bunch of production. The thing is, they're returning median to a little bit above average production. They're not returning 4- and 5-star recruits that are just the best of the best. They're not returning an elite offense that was, one of the most highly productive offenses last year. They're just kind of returning a little bit better than average production on both sides of the ball. And the problem is with a little bit better, returning production, you don't get huge outsized wins. You don't win 10 games and then, win the Big Ten. You win 8 games. What does the ceiling look like? 9 wins. That's what blow your head off Illini season looks like to me. Is you won 9 games. That's a huge win.
And it's not like they've tapped into the transfer portal at a really high level, like some of these other teams, the LSU's, Texas Techs of the world, right? They are ranked, according to 24/7, 43rd in the transfer portal. They brought in a grand total of 18 commits, only 1 4-star.
So yeah, well, and the whole argument is, why would you? They have the stacked roster that they're returning.
They were set.
Yeah, and you have Brett Bielema. Yeah, they won some games last year. They were a competitive team. I think they beat Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. Nebraska was in the middle of the league, middle of the road Big Ten team. That's who this team is. They're not going to beat, they're not going to beat the Penn States and the Ohio States. Can they give those guys a run for their money? We'll see. But pump the brakes. I think median for us for the Illini is 7.3 wins. And you can bet a 7.5. So, I would use a lot of caution. Now they do have one of the easier Big Ten schedules, so maybe that's what's you get you somewhere. But USC, unknown with the quarterback. Indiana, unknown. Purdue should be dog shit. Ohio State should be good. Rutgers, Maryland, we're going to talk about. There's games that they can win. I don't know. I think that when they play these Rutgers, the Maryland, the Wiscos, we look at them like, this is an Ohio State, and it's there. It's a 17-point spread. It's probably like a 7-point spread.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap up this conference discussion with a couple of these other teams here. One that I'm interested to get your thoughts on again. Wisco, you mentioned them. I mean, we have them pegged at 6.9 wins. Average wins 4.6 across the board. Median of about 5.2. So like two things. One, from a betting angle standpoint, like, is there anything there in the data? And number two, like, from a narrative standpoint, like, is the coach on the hot seat on this one?
I think the coach is on the hot seat. I think that experience, the Luke Fickell experiment, it might be coming to an end.
It is very fickle indeed.
The problem with that team is it doesn't seem like it's panned out over over the years. And guess what? They're playing the second hardest schedule in all of college football this season. So
Which is
they're not doing
bonkers.
themselves any favors here on it, of trying to have that success.
Sure.
Look, we just don't quite get there with the numbers for betting the under, but the market is heavily shaded towards under 5.5. The direction of our models all point in that direction. And I am really worried, if I'm a Wisco fan, that this season's going to not really pan out very well. And you're probably going to be at the end with no head coach. You're going to be kind of starting this experiment all over. So heavily caution. If you're buying Wisco, I think time to sell.
Okay. Okay. Then one other team I want to hit on, and I want to get your guys' take on it real quick, because talk about, is it time to sell the Indiana train? We mentioned them a little bit earlier. Like, they had this crazy run, right? Unexpected run, right? With Chris Signetti. I don't know if you can catch teams off guard 2 years in a row. Is kind of the thesis going into the season. We make the number 9.2 wins for them, median of 8.2, and the market's at 8.5. So we don't technically show any value either side here, but I'm looking at their schedule. It's not easy. It's kind of an average schedule, frankly. But I just don't. Do we expect this to continue? Is basically my question to you guys.
Yeah, I have 58th ranked schedule. So, not as far as Big Ten goes, that's one of the easier. This is my problem with Indiana. And we hammered this last year, and I'll hammer it here again today. Is you said no, they didn't catch anybody off guard. You're right. They're not going to be able to do it. And they didn't do it last year. When they played the big dogs, nobody got caught off guard. They got smacked every single time. The only people that you can argue that quote unquote caught off guard was when they played lesser talent. And I think this is when we talked about earlier. He came in with a JMU squad that was already performing at JMU, and they continued that, through here at Indiana. So to me, it's all about recruiting. 4.3% blue chip ratio going back to their last year. So even all that hype, they only were able to get, their last recruiting class about 5% blue chips. They're not bringing in the top guys. Those guys are still going to Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. And until they're getting blue chip ratios 50%, in my opinion, that's what's going to continue to separate them. Can they win 9 wins? Sure. Can they go to the playoff again? Maybe. But when they play the elite talent, we're going to see the same thing over and over. They're not going to be able to compete.
Yeah, no, and I think that's well said, because the hype train really got going because they blew out Nebraska. It was like 56-7. And then a couple of weeks later, they beat Michigan at home, kind of squeaked out that 5-point win. But we were on this last year during the week. We had our weekly podcast bet for the Ohio State, and we said, like, this is not going to be the Indiana that's going to, whatever. This is the big dog. This is the big leagues. What I will say, Kev, to your point, I think there's 2 things I want to mention. One is going to be, yes, the offensive side of the ball is absolutely the concern, because not only are you not catching teams off guard, which kind of disproved that, but you had all that with Curtis Rourke. Now you got Fernando Mendoza coming in. I don't know that he reaches those same heights, because we've seen Mendoza play, and he was one of the few players in the country. He played last year at Cal, but he had more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. So this is going to be a feast or famine, and I'm just afraid that you're going to see a lot more of the famine this time around, especially against this bigger competition. The other thing, though, is people talk about Indiana's offense, but their defense was one of the most efficient in the country last year. And you have a lot of those studs coming back this year. So it's not like they're going to be completely starting over from scratch, new quarterback, new whatever. They still have something on the defensive side of the ball to maybe keep them in games, but I don't really have enough to put it all together to really reach the heights of the Big Ten.
Yeah, and speaking of famine, I think the market is shaded that way for sure. Best number you can get for under 8.5 is 130. Otherwise, you're looking at -150, -140. So market is not particularly high on them winning more than 9 games this year. So
yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
No, it certainly was. Yeah, who knows? All right, Big Ten. Potentially a 2-dog race at the top, but this could be one of the conferences where it all who the hell knows how it shakes out in the middle with some of these with the Penn States, maybe even Indiana's coming back for more. Who knows? But
one thing at the bottom, there's not a lot of sexiness behind it, not a lot of narrative. It's all math based. Maryland over 4.5 plus 110 is a solid bet, something we've placed ourselves. kind of don't, the narratives are whatever they are. This team, you're actually getting it to buy a 4-star, which I think at the bottom, it's a good buy low spot at 4.5 wins. But basically, this team wins 5 wins just so many times. And at the plus 110 number, I think is the best number in the market. It's a slam dunk bet. Book it.
Yeah. Can I just say real quick on that? Yeah, Maryland's one of the teams you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about, but they are sneakily recruiting very well and getting Malik Washington starting this year, number 11 overall quarterback coming out of high school. Like, yeah, he's going to be a true freshman. It's going to be some questions there, but this team is building up talent. And so with the bar being so low, we talked about this last time. They have, FAU, Towson, and NIU, their first 3 games. This team could legit go 3-0 to start the season, then just got to find 2 wins in that Big Ten play. But yeah, I agree with Seth. Sneaky good play that I don't think you hear a lot of people talk about.
Somewhat active in the transfer portal too. 16 total commits and a couple of 4-stars. So they're looking to bring in talent. So yes.
Hey, shout out Scott Van Pelt. Maybe we can get they do a left Maryland stuff. We can get him on the show.
Let's go. Shout out SVP. Yes. All right, boys and girls, appreciate you tuning in. That was our Big Ten breakdown. Don't forget, let us know what you think in the comments. We have a lot of angles and a lot of takes. We have output for every single team. If there's one that we didn't discuss or you think we're too high on, too low on, let us know. We'll be sure to respond. Don't forget to like the video and keep hitting that notification button so you know when we go live for the next video. All right, guys, that'll do it. Until next time, see ya.